I'm having it looked into. If it connects back to an O'Sullivan associate, we have proof that your tip-off was an orchestrated setup. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from an unknown number made my heart race until I saw the message. Parents want me to stay longer. News about Chicago reached Milwaukee. People are asking if I know where you are. I said no. Stay safe. H. Hannah. Using a different phone to contact me. Being smart about security. Relief washed through me. Your friend? Anthony asked, reading my expression. She's okay. Still in Milwaukee. Her parents don't want her coming back yet. I typed a quick response, keeping it vague. I told her I'm somewhere secure, not to worry. Good. He pocketed his own phone. I need you to understand something, Jessica. What you found today, the connections you made, they're going to escalate this situation. The O'Sullivan family won't take kindly to having their operation exposed. I know. No, I don't think you do. He moved closer, his presence filling the space between us. This isn't about writing an article that wins you a Pulitzer. This is about testimony that could send people to prison for decades, that could dismantle an organization with roots going back 3 generations. They will do everything in their power to stop that from happening. Then we'd better make sure we have evidence they can't discredit. I lifted my chin, refusing to back down. I didn't come this far to give up, because dangerous people want me to stay quiet. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. You're either very brave or very foolish. Probably both. I closed the distance slightly. But I'm also very good at my job. And right now, my job is figuring out how to prove the O'Sullivan family orchestrated this entire setup. Which means we need to work together. We. He repeated the word like he was testing its weight. You realize that makes you a target in ways you haven't been before. I've been a target since the moment I answered that text message. At least now I understand why. He held my gaze for another moment, then nodded slowly. All right. We do this together. But on my terms, with my security protocols. No more solo investigation. No more taking risks without backup. Agreed. And Jessica? His voice dropped lower. Thank you. For bringing this to me instead of walking away. For choosing to trust me when you had every reason not to. The sincerity in his words caught me off guard. You're welcome. After I left his office, I went back to my room and sat on the edge of the bed, laptop open but forgotten. 2 weeks ago, I'd been a journalist chasing a corruption story. Now I was something else entirely. A witness. A target. A partner in taking down an organization that had probably killed people for far less than what I knew. The thought should have terrified me. Instead, I felt a clarity I hadn't experienced in months. I'd spent my career exposing truth from the sidelines, writing articles that occasionally changed policy but never really changed the game. Now I was in the game, playing for stakes that actually mattered. My phone buzzed again. This time, a message from Anthony. Vincent confirmed the burner phone was purchased by a known O'Sullivan associate 3 days before the restaurant ambush. You were right. It was a setup from the beginning. I stared at the words, feeling vindication and anger in equal measure. They'd used me, turned me into a weapon against someone I'd never met, gambling that my death or capture would create the chaos they needed. They'd gambled wrong, and now I was going to make sure they paid for it. The 4th week at the mansion brought an unexpected shift in dynamics. Anthony and I had fallen into a working partnership, spending hours together reviewing financial documents, tracing money flows, building a case that could withstand federal scrutiny. We'd moved beyond employer and protected witness into something that felt dangerously close to equals. It was late afternoon, November sun slanting through the office windows when the package arrived. Marcus brought it in personally, his expression grim as he set the padded envelope on Anthony's desk. Delivered to the front gate. No return address, no courier service. Someone dropped it and left. Anthony's jaw tightened. He pulled latex gloves from a drawer before carefully opening the envelope. Inside was a flash drive and a handwritten note on expensive cardstock. I read over his shoulder. We have everything. Every file. Every source. Every connection. Walk away now, or we release it all. Distorted. Discredited. Your career ends. Your credibility dies. Last chance. What's on the drive? I asked. though dread already pooled in my stomach. Anthony inserted it into his computer, pulling up folder after folder. My research. All of it. Every interview transcript. Every financial record. Every piece of evidence I'd spent months collecting. But not just copies. They'd added their own annotations, falsified dates, inserted fabricated communications that made it look like I'd been coordinating with Anthony's organization the entire time. "They're setting you up," Anthony said quietly, "making it look like you weren't investigating corruption, but helping launder money through fake journalism." My hands curled into fists. Years of work turned into a weapon against me. If they release this, no one will believe anything I write ever again. That's the point. Discredit the journalist, bury the truth. He ejected the drive, handling it carefully. They're trying to neutralize you without killing you. Less messy, fewer complications. What do? We turn it against them. Anthony stood, moving to the window. They think this is leverage, but what they've really done is show their hand. They're desperate, making moves that expose their operation. How does threatening me expose them? Because they had to have been monitoring your investigation for months to collect this much material. That requires resources, manpower, probably illegal surveillance. He turned back to me. Vincent can trace where this package came from, who handled it, where the fabrications were created. Every step they took leaves a trail. Hope flickered despite my fear. So we investigate the investigators. Exactly. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, expression darkening. Speaking of which, we have another problem. The FBI is requesting a meeting. They want to interview you about the shooting. My stomach dropped. When? Tomorrow, if you're willing. If not, they'll issue a subpoena. He pocketed the phone. I have a contact there. Someone I trust. He can make sure the interview stays focused on the O'Sullivan ambush, not fishing for information about my businesses. You trust an FBI agent? I trust someone who wants the O'Sullivan family taken down as much as we do. He's been building a case for months, but he needs witnesses willing to testify. Anthony's gaze held mine. This could be an opportunity. You tell them about the setup, the manufactured evidence, the threats. They investigate. You get protection beyond what I can offer. Or they decide I'm complicit and arrest me along with everyone else. That's why you need to be smart about what you say and how you say it. He moved closer, close enough that I could smell cedar and rain. I'll be with you the entire time. I won't let them twist your words. He wasn't promising miracles, only process. The agent he'd named, someone Internal Affairs trusted, had already coordinated with the U.S. Attorney's Office to set clear interview boundaries. I would have counsel present, the session would be recorded, and the scope would stay fixed on the O'Sullivan ambush. No threats, no theatrics. Just facts, because facts were the only thing that could keep everyone breathing. A text message interrupted the moment. My phone, displaying a photo that made my throat tighten. Hannah, standing with her parents in front of a fireplace, all three of them smiling. The accompanying text read, "Family time. Miss you. Stay strong." I showed Anthony the screen. At least she's safe. She's smart, your friend. Knows when to keep her head down. He studied the photo. You miss her. More than I thought I would. Hannah and I have been friends since college. She's the only person who knows all my terrible decisions and still picks up the phone when I call. That's rare. Something in his voice suggested he understood the value of loyalty that ran deeper than convenience. My phone buzzed again, this time from an unknown number. The message was simple. Stop hiding. Come find me, or I'll come find you. No signature, no context. Just a threat wrapped in an invitation. Anthony read it over my shoulder, his body going rigid. They're getting bolder, frustrated that they can't get to you. Good. Frustrated people make mistakes. They also make desperate moves. He pulled out his own phone, typing rapidly. I'm doubling security. No one gets within a mile of this property without us knowing about it. Anthony. I touched his arm, feeling the tension coiled there. I have an idea. About how to get the evidence we need. He lowered his phone, giving me his full attention. I'm listening. Patrick O'Sullivan, the head of their organization. He's hosting a charity gala next week at the Drake Hotel. Politicians, business leaders, major donors. All the people connected to the construction fraud. The idea had been forming for days, but saying it out loud made it real. I still have my press credentials. I could get in as a journalist covering the event. Absolutely not. Hear me out. I go in, plant listening devices, photograph documents if I can access his private areas, maybe even get him talking on record about the shell companies. You're talking about walking into enemy territory surrounded by people who want you dead. I'm talking about getting evidence that would hold up in court. Everything we have now is circumstantial. We need something concrete. I stepped closer, forcing him to meet my eyes. I can do this. I'm a journalist. This is what I'm trained for. You're trained to ask questions and write articles, not conduct espionage in hostile environments. Then teach me. You have resources, equipment, people who know how to do this professionally. Help me prepare. When he started to protest, I cut him off. They've already destroyed my apartment, my career, my entire life. What more can they take? But what we could gain, Anthony. Real evidence, recorded conversations, proof that would dismantle their operation. He was silent for a long moment, jaw working as he processed. If I agree to this, and that's a very big if, you do exactly as I say. Every security protocol, every contingency plan, no improvisation. Deal. I mean it, Jessica. You step 1 foot out of line and I pull you out immediately. I understand. We spent the next hour discussing logistics, potential risks, escape routes. Anthony was thorough to the point of paranoia, mapping every possible scenario and how to respond. By the time Maria called us for dinner, my head was spinning with details. Lily was already at the table when we arrived, her homework spread out beside her plate. She looked up grinning. Papa, Jessica, I got an A on my history test. That's wonderful, baby. Anthony kissed the top of her head before sitting down. What was the test about? The Civil War and Reconstruction, and how sometimes bad people do good things and good people do bad things. She frowned. It's confusing. History often is, I said, settling into my chair. People are complicated. Are you complicated, Jessica? The question caught me off guard. I think everyone is in their own way. Papa says you're very smart, that you see patterns other people miss. Lily poked at her pasta. Is that because you're a reporter? Partly, but also because I don't like unsolved puzzles. When things don't make sense, I need to figure out why. Me too. Her face lit up. Like, why do birds fly south for winter but squirrels stay? If it's cold for birds, isn't it cold for squirrels? Anthony and I exchanged glances, both of us fighting smiles. That's actually a very good question, he said. Maybe we should research it together this weekend. Dinner continued with easier conversation. Lily chattering about school and friends, and a birthday party she wanted to attend. For an hour, we were almost normal. A father, his daughter, and the woman temporarily living under his roof. Not a crime boss, a 7-year-old growing up behind fortress walls, and a journalist whose life had been blown apart by violence. The illusion shattered at 10:15. The alarms were different from anything I'd heard before, a sharp pulsing that made my heart race instantly. Anthony was moving before I fully processed the sound, grabbing his phone while simultaneously reaching for me. Safe room. Now. What's happening? Someone breached the perimeter. His voice was deadly calm, the controlled response of someone who'd trained for this moment. Marcus, get Lily. We met in the hallway. Marcus already carrying a sleepy Lily who was starting to cry. Anthony led us through the house to a section I'd never seen before. Down a hallway, through a door disguised as a bookshelf. Behind it was a staircase descending into reinforced darkness. The safe room was exactly what he'd promised weeks ago. Steel walls, ventilation system, computer monitors showing security feeds from around the property. Provisions stacked in one corner, medical supplies in another. A room designed to withstand assault. How many? Anthony asked Marcus as we entered. At least 8 that we've spotted. Professional team, coordinated approach. They cut power to the perimeter cameras before moving in. O'Sullivan? Who else? Anthony pulled a handgun from a locked cabinet, checking it with practiced efficiency. Seeing him handle the weapon so casually drove home what I'd been trying to ignore for weeks. This man, who helped his daughter with homework and cooked breakfast on weekends, was also someone who knew exactly how to kill. "Stay here." He looked at me, his expression harder than I'd ever seen it. "Lock the door behind us. Don't open it for anyone except me or Marcus. Code word is Raven. If someone tries to get in without that word, assume they're hostile. You're going out there. It's my property, my people, my responsibility." He moved to the door, then paused. "Jessica, keep Lily calm. She's been through this before, but it never gets easier." Then he was gone, Marcus following, the heavy door sealing behind them with a hydraulic hiss. The lock engaged with a sound like finality. Lily was crying harder now, curled in the corner with her stuffed rabbit. I sat beside her, wrapping my arms around her small body. She was shaking. "Hey," I whispered, "remember what your papa said about nightmares? They can't hurt you. Only real things can. This is real." She sobbed. "But we're safe. Look around. These walls are so thick nothing can get through them. We have food, water, air. Your papa made sure we'd be okay." I rocked her gently. "And he's going to make sure those bad people leave. What if they hurt him?" The question made my chest tighten. "Your papa is very good at protecting people. He's been doing it for a long time." On the monitors, I could see shapes moving through darkness. Muzzle flashes. Anthony's security team engaging the attackers. The surveillance was silent, which somehow made it worse. Violence without sound. Death without screams. Lily's breathing started to slow, exhaustion overtaking fear. I held her, watching the monitors, counting the minutes. 10, 20, 30. A massive flash on one screen made me flinch. Explosion. Probably a grenade. Fire bloomed in the east garden, illuminating running figures. More muzzle flashes. Someone went down, unclear which side. 40 minutes in, the attack suddenly ceased. The approaching figures retreated, moving quickly back toward the perimeter. Anthony's men pursued but stopped at the property line, letting them escape into the night. Then nothing. Just darkness, and the smoldering remains of the garden fire. Lily had fallen asleep against me, exhausted by fear. I stroked her hair, still watching the monitors. Waiting. The knock on the door made my heart leap. 3 quick raps, pause, 2 more. "Raven," Anthony's voice muffled by steel. "It's clear. Open up." I disengaged the lock, the door swinging open to reveal Anthony covered in soot and what looked like blood. Not his, I realized with relief. He was moving fine, showing no signs of injury. "Everyone okay in here?" "We're fine. Lily's asleep." I checked him anyway, needing to confirm he was whole. "Are you hurt?" "Couple scratches, nothing serious." He moved to where Lily slept, gathering her gently into his arms. She stirred, but didn't wake. 3 of my men have injuries. 1 serious, but he'll live. 2 attackers dead, rest escaped. What did they want? To send a message. To test our defenses. He looked at me over Lily's sleeping form. To remind us that nowhere is completely safe. I thought about the charity gala. The plan we'd discussed just hours ago. Walking into the heart of O'Sullivan territory seemed insane now, after watching armed men assault a fortified compound. But that's exactly why it would work. Because they'd never expect someone to walk directly into their domain after an attack like this. "I'm still going," I said quietly. "To the gala. I need to do this." Anthony's expression was unreadable. Then slowly, he nodded. "We start preparing tomorrow. If you're going to do this, you'll do it right." The week following the attack became a masterclass in preparation I never expected to need. Anthony transformed a section of the mansion into a training ground, teaching me things no journalism school covered. Listening devices go here. He demonstrated on a practice dummy, showing me how to plant the tiny microphone under a lapel during what looked like casual contact. 1 second, that's all you have. Any longer and people notice. My fingers fumbled the first dozen attempts. By the 50th, I could plant the device while shaking someone's hand without them feeling anything beyond a normal greeting. Marcus taught me how to use the camera hidden in what looked like an ordinary pen. Click the top once to activate, twice to capture. The lens is here, barely visible. Keep it pointed at your target for 3 seconds minimum. Vincent joined us on the third day, bringing equipment I'd only seen in spy movies. Earpieces so small they were invisible, a bracelet that doubled as a panic button, shoes with tracking devices embedded in the heels. "If something goes wrong," Vincent said, his weathered face serious, "you hit that panic button and we come in. No heroics, no trying to salvage the mission. Your safety is the priority." I practiced my cover story until I could recite it in my sleep. Jessica Turner, freelance journalist covering charity events for a lifestyle blog. My press credentials were still technically valid. Suspended didn't mean revoked. Anthony had confirmed it with a contact at the Tribune. "Patrick O'Sullivan loves attention," Anthony explained during one of our planning sessions. "He fancies himself a philanthropist, hiding criminal activity behind charitable donations. He'll talk to any journalist who makes him look good. So I flatter him, ask softball questions about his construction company's community involvement. Exactly. While you're talking, you plant the device. His security will sweep the room before and after, but they won't sweep him. People don't think about being bugged themselves." The night of the gala arrived faster than I wanted. Maria helped me dress, an emerald cocktail dress that Anthony had somehow acquired in my exact size. It was elegant without being flashy, professional without being boring. The kind of dress a freelance journalist might splurge on for an important assignment. "You look beautiful," Lily said from my doorway. She'd been quieter since the attack, more clingy. "Are you coming back tonight?" "I am. I promise." I knelt down to her level, careful of the dress. "Your papa's going to be nearby the whole time, making sure I'm safe." "Good." She hugged me tight. "Be careful. The bad people are scary." Anthony was waiting at the bottom of the stairs, wearing a dark suit that made him look like he belonged in a boardroom or a battlefield. His eyes tracked over me, not in a way that felt uncomfortable, but assessing, making sure I was ready. "The devices are in your clutch. 2 listening bugs, 1 in the lipstick case, 1 in the compact mirror. Plant them if you can, but don't take unnecessary risks." He handed me the pen camera. "This goes in your jacket pocket, and this." He slipped the bracelet onto my wrist. "Emergency signal. Marcus will be monitoring from a van 2 blocks away. I'm ready." "Jessica." He caught my hand, his grip warm and steady. "If anything feels wrong, you get out. The information isn't worth your life." The Drake Hotel glowed like a jewel box, all golden light and elegant architecture. The charity gala was in full swing, Chicago's elite mingling over champagne and canapes. I showed my credentials at the door, smiled at the security guard who barely glanced at my bag, and stepped into the enemy's domain. Patrick O'Sullivan held court near the center of the ballroom, a silver-haired man in his 60s surrounded by admirers. He wore his wealth casually, an expensive watch, perfectly tailored tuxedo, the confidence of someone who'd never been told no. I approached with my most professional smile. "Mr. O'Sullivan, Jessica Turner, I'm covering tonight's event. Could I ask you a few questions about your company's charitable work?" His face lit up exactly as Anthony predicted. "Of course. Always happy to talk about giving back to the community." For 10 minutes, I asked him about donation amounts, community projects, his vision for Chicago's future. He talked. I nodded and took notes. And when he gestured expansively about a new recreation center his company funded, I stepped closer to examine the architectural rendering he was describing. That's when I planted the first device, my hand brushing his lapel as I leaned in to see the image better. 1 second, just like Anthony taught me. O'Sullivan didn't flinch. "This is wonderful," I said, pulling back. "Your company is clearly committed to more than just profits. We believe in investing in people, not just buildings." He was warming to the topic, barely noticing when I adjusted my grip on the pen, activating the camera to photograph the architectural plans he'd so helpfully laid out. "Could I see your executive offices? I'd love to include some details about where the planning for these projects happens." He hesitated, then nodded. "Brief tour. I have other guests to attend to." The office was on the 2nd floor, accessed through a hallway guarded by a single security officer who stepped aside when O'Sullivan approached. Inside was exactly what I expected. Mahogany desk, leather chairs, walls lined with awards and photographs of O'Sullivan with various politicians and business leaders. "This is where the magic happens," he said with false humility. Just a simple office for a simple man trying to do good. I photographed everything with the pen camera while pretending to admire the view. The desk held scattered papers, one folder partially open showing what looked like financial documents. When O'Sullivan turned to point out a particular award, I planted the second device under the edge of his desk, my movements smooth and practiced. "Thank you so much for your time," I said, shaking his hand. "This will make a wonderful piece. Send me the link when it publishes. I'd love to read it." I made my way back to the ballroom, adrenaline singing through my veins. Mission accomplished. Devices planted, photographs taken, no one suspicious. Now I just needed to slip out and I saw him through a service corridor doorway. Vincent, Anthony's trusted lieutenant, the man who'd helped train me for this mission. He was talking to someone, and his body language was all wrong. Too casual, too familiar. The other man turned slightly, and I recognized him from the surveillance photos Anthony had shown me, one of Patrick O'Sullivan's top enforcers. My heart stopped. I pulled out the pen, activated the camera, and captured 3 quick shots before ducking back into the ballroom. My hands were shaking. This couldn't be what it looked like. Vincent was loyal. Anthony had said he'd been with them for 15 years. But the photographs didn't lie. I checked them on the tiny preview screen. Clear images of Vincent and the O'Sullivan enforcer, heads bent together in obvious conspiracy. I left through the main entrance, walking quickly but not running. Marcus picked me up 2 blocks away as planned, the black SUV pulling up precisely on schedule. "How'd it go?" he asked as I climbed in. "We need to get back to the mansion. Now." My voice was shaking. "I have something Anthony needs to see immediately." The drive to Lake Forest felt endless. Marcus kept glancing at me in the rearview mirror, clearly picking up on my distress. But he didn't ask questions. When we finally pulled through the gates, Anthony was waiting, his face dark with concern. "What happened?" I pulled up the photographs on the pen's display screen, hands still trembling. "Vincent. I saw him at the gala, talking to one of O'Sullivan's men." Anthony went completely still. The kind of stillness that preceded violence. "Show me." We went to his office where I transferred the photos to his computer. The images were damning, crystal clear. Vincent and the O'Sullivan enforcer, obviously familiar with each other, exchanging what looked like documents. "How long have you known him?" I asked quietly. 15 years, since he was a street soldier working his way up." Anthony's voice was dead, emotionless. "He was at my father's funeral. He's godfather to Lily." "Anthony, get him here, now." This was directed at Marcus, who immediately pulled out his phone. Vincent arrived 20 minutes later, clearly confused by the urgent summons. "Boss, what's—" He saw the photographs on the screen and went pale. "Explain." A one word spoken with deadly calm. "I can explain. Please, just let me—" "Explain how you're meeting with O'Sullivan's men hours after I sent Jessica into their territory. Explain how they knew where to attack us last week. Anthony's control was fracturing, rage bleeding through. 15 years, Vincent. 15 years, and you sold us out. They have Sarah." The words burst out of Vincent like a confession. "My sister. They took her 3 months ago. I had no choice." The room went silent. Anthony's jaw worked. "What?" "Patrick O'Sullivan kidnapped my sister. Said if I didn't feed them information, they'd kill her." Vincent's voice broke. "The accounts being frozen, the attack on the mansion, I had to give them something. I tried to warn you, tried to minimize the damage, but they had her. They still have her. So you put Lily in danger. You put Jessica in danger." Anthony's hand moved toward the gun I knew he kept in his desk drawer. I know what I did." Vincent dropped to his knees. "I deserve whatever you do to me. But please, Sarah had nothing to do with this. She's innocent. She's terrified. They're keeping her in a warehouse near the port." I stepped forward, putting myself between Anthony and Vincent before I could think better of it. "Don't. Not yet. We can use this." Anthony's eyes snapped to me. "Use what? His betrayal? Use his connection to them. They think he's still theirs. We feed them false information through Vincent, set them up, and rescue his sister at the same time. I looked at Vincent. You know where they're keeping her? Yes. I've been trying to get intel, find a way to get her out. Then we do it together. I turned back to Anthony. One operation. We save Sarah. We gather evidence on O'Sullivan, and we turn Vincent into a weapon against them instead of us. Anthony stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Then slowly, his hand moved away from the gun. You're suggesting we trust the man who betrayed us. I'm suggesting we give him a chance to make it right, and use him to destroy the people who forced him into this position. I kept my voice steady. We're going to need every advantage we can get. Vincent knows their operations from the inside now. That's valuable. Vincent looked up at me, something like hope in his eyes. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll wear a wire, I'll testify, anything. Just help me save my sister. Anthony was quiet for a long moment, processing. Then, one chance. You fuck this up, you breathe wrong, and I finish what I should have done tonight. Understood? Understood. Good. Anthony turned to me. You're proposing we go after O'Sullivan directly. Take them down completely, not just defend against attacks. I'm proposing we stop playing defense and start playing offense. We have the financial evidence, the surveillance from tonight, Vincent's testimony about Sarah's kidnapping. We build a case that the FBI can't ignore, and we coordinate a simultaneous rescue and raid. A slow, dangerous smile spread across Anthony's face. You're more devious than I gave you credit for. I'm a journalist who's tired of being hunted. Time to turn the tables. Planning the operation took 3 days of meticulous coordination. Anthony's dining room became a war room, maps spread across the table, photographs pinned to boards, everyone speaking in low, urgent tones. Vincent provided the crucial details. Sarah's being held in a warehouse near the port of Chicago, industrial district, mostly abandoned at night. 2 guards, maybe 3. They move her every few weeks, but she's there now. I saw her last week when they made me verify she was still alive. His voice cracked on that last part. Anthony's expression remained hard, but he nodded. We'll need 2 teams. One at the port for the setup, one at the warehouse for extraction. I'll lead the warehouse team, I said. Everyone turned to look at me. What? You need someone who can document everything, get evidence that will hold up in court. That's me. Absolutely not. Anthony's voice was flat. You're a journalist, not a tactical operator, which is exactly why I need to be there. Any evidence gathered by your people can be challenged as tainted. But a journalist documenting a kidnapping rescue? That's gold for prosecution. I leaned forward. Besides, Hannah needs to be ready to publish everything simultaneously. She's the only person I trust with this. Anthony studied me for a long moment. Hannah's in Milwaukee. Then I bring her back. With your security escort, she comes back to Chicago, stays in a safe location, and publishes everything the moment we transmit it. I pulled out my phone. I'll call her now. Hannah answered on the second ring. Jess? Is everything okay? I need you to come back to Chicago. Tonight, if possible. It's important. There was a pause. How important? Career-defining. Potentially Pulitzer-level important, but also dangerous. I won't lie about that. I glanced at Anthony. You'll have protection, but this is the story we've both been waiting for our entire careers. I'm in. No hesitation. My parents will freak out, but I'm in. What do you need? Relief washed through me. Pack light. Someone will pick you up in Milwaukee in 3 hours. I'll explain everything when you get here. After I hung up, Anthony shook his head. You're both insane. We're both journalists who understand what's at stake. I met his eyes. The O'Sullivan organization has corrupted this city for decades. This is our chance to expose it all. Hannah and I didn't get into this business to write puff pieces. Vincent cleared his throat. I'll tell O'Sullivan that Anthony's meeting with a weapons supplier at the port tomorrow night. Vulnerable, small security detail. They'll take the bait. They'll come in force, Marcus added, expecting an easy kill. Good. Let them. Anthony's voice went cold. While they're focused on the port, we hit the warehouse. Jessica's team extracts Sarah and documents everything. We coordinate with the FBI to arrive at both locations simultaneously. Your FBI contact agreed to this? I asked. He wants O'Sullivan badly enough to bend some rules. As long as we deliver evidence and witnesses, he'll make the arrest stick. Anthony pulled up a map on his tablet. The warehouse is here. 3 entry points. We go in fast, extract Sarah, get the evidence, and get out before anyone realizes what happened. The next 24 hours blurred together. Hannah arrived looking terrified but determined. I briefed her in a secure room, showing her everything we'd compiled. Financial records, surveillance footage, testimony from Vincent about the kidnapping. Her eyes grew wider with each revelation. "This is massive," she breathed. "This could bring down half the city's construction industry. That's why timing is critical. You publish the moment I transmit the warehouse footage. Not a second before, not a minute after. The FBI needs to make arrests based on evidence that's already public. Makes it harder to bury. I understand." She gripped my hand. "Be careful in there. I can't lose my best friend over a story." "You won't. I have the best protection money can buy." I squeezed back. "See you on the other side." The night of the operation arrived with unusual warmth for November. I wore tactical gear provided by Anthony's team, a camera strapped to my chest, microphone clipped to my collar. Everything would be recorded, documented, preserved for prosecution. "Remember," Anthony said as we geared up, "you stay behind Marcus and his team. They clear rooms, you document. Don't be a hero. Same to you at the port. Don't let O'Sullivan bait you into doing something stupid." He touched my face, the gesture surprisingly gentle given the circumstances. "When this is over, we need to talk about what comes next. One crisis at a time." We split into teams. Anthony, Vincent, and 8 men headed to the port. Marcus, 4 operators, and I took 2 unmarked vans toward the warehouse district. My heart hammered against my ribs as we drove through darkened streets. The warehouse was exactly as Vincent described. 3 stories of rusted metal and broken windows, surrounded by chain-link fence. Marcus held up a fist, and everyone froze. He spoke into his radio, coordinating with Anthony's team. "Port team in position. O'Sullivan's people are approaching. At least 12 hostiles." "Copy that. Warehouse team moving in." We cut through the fence, moving silently across cracked pavement. Marcus used hand signals to direct his operators to each entry point. I stayed behind him, camera recording everything, my breathing too loud in my own ears. The door breached with a controlled explosion that wasn't nearly as quiet as I'd hoped. We flooded in, flashlights cutting through darkness. 2 guards appeared, weapons raised. Marcus's team dropped them both with precision shots that made me flinch despite expecting them. "Clear left. Clear right. Hostage located, 3rd floor." We climbed stairs 2 at a time. Sarah was in a corner room, chained to a radiator, wearing the same clothes Vincent had described from his last verification visit. She looked up with terrified eyes when we burst through the door. "Sarah Romero?" I called out, keeping my voice gentle. "Your brother Vincent sent us. We're getting you out." She started crying. "Vincent? Is he okay? They said they'd kill him if I tried to escape." "He's fine. He's helping us take down the people who did this to you." I filmed while Marcus's team worked on her restraints. "Can you tell me who kidnapped you? Who's been holding you?" "Patrick O'Sullivan's men. They grabbed me outside my apartment 3 months ago. Said Vincent had to cooperate or they'd kill me." She was shaking, traumatized but coherent. "They moved me 4 times. This is the 5th location. Perfect testimony, recorded with multiple witnesses. The restraints came free, and Sarah collapsed. 2 operators caught her, supporting her weight. "We need to move. Now." Marcus was already heading for the exit. That's when gunfire erupted from downstairs. The guards we'd dropped must have called for backup. Marcus cursed, shoving me behind cover. "How many?" "Unknown. At least 5 coming up the stairs." I pulled out my phone, hands shaking, and hit transmit. The footage uploaded to Hannah's secure server. Everything we'd captured. Sarah's testimony, the warehouse location, evidence of kidnapping. Within seconds, my phone buzzed. "Hannah. Received. Publishing now." The gunfight was brief, but intense. Marcus's team held the stairs while 2 operators carried Sarah down a fire escape. I followed, filming everything despite my terror. The evidence couldn't stop just because things got dangerous. We made it to the vans, Sarah safely inside, when my phone rang. Anthony. O'Sullivan's here. At the port. He came personally. Anthony's voice was tight with controlled violence. He brought 15 men. This is going to get ugly. FBI? 2 minutes out. We just need to hold until they arrive. Gunfire crackled through the phone. I heard shouting, orders being given, the chaos of combat. My stomach twisted. Anthony was in the middle of a war zone because of a plan I'd helped create. Marcus, we need to get to the port. Are you insane? We have the hostage. We have the evidence. Mission accomplished. Anthony's pinned down. They came in heavier than expected. I was already climbing back into the van. We can't leave him there. Marcus stared at me like I'd lost my mind. Then he shook his head and got in the driver's seat. You're going to get us all killed. We arrived at the port to find a scene from a war movie. Cars burned, lighting the dock in flickering orange. Bodies lay scattered. Anthony and his men had taken cover behind shipping containers, returning fire against O'Sullivan's forces positioned across the pier. Jessica, what the hell are you doing here? Anthony's voice crackled over the radio. Bringing reinforcements and recording everything. I raised the camera, documenting Patrick O'Sullivan directing his men from behind an SUV, clearly visible, clearly in command. Undeniable evidence of his personal involvement. That's when the FBI arrived, a dozen vehicles flooding the port with lights and sirens. Federal agents poured out, establishing positions, shouting orders for everyone to drop their weapons. O'Sullivan tried to run. Anthony cut him off, weapon raised, fury carved into every line of his face. For a moment, I thought he'd pull the trigger. Instead, he lowered the gun and let the FBI take O'Sullivan into custody. The aftermath was chaos. Paramedics treated wounded men from both sides. FBI agents processed the scene, collecting evidence, taking statements. Sarah sat wrapped in a blanket, finally free, while Vincent held her and sobbed. I stood apart, camera still recording, watching it all unfold. My hands were shaking. I'd just participated in a gunfight, witnessed violence up close, crossed every line that separated journalist from participant. Anthony found me as the sun began to rise. You did it. The evidence you gathered, Sarah's testimony, the footage of O'Sullivan directing his men. It's over. Is it? I looked at my hands, half expecting them to be covered in blood. Because I just helped plan a military operation. That's not journalism. You documented a rescue and gathered evidence that will put dangerous people in prison. That's exactly what journalism should be. He took my camera gently. Hannah published everything? An hour ago. It's already national news. He nodded slowly. Then it's really over. The O'Sullivan organization is finished. But I wasn't sure anything was finished. I'd changed too much, crossed too many boundaries. The woman who walked into Giordano's that rainy October night wouldn't recognize who I'd become. 2 weeks after the fall of Patrick O'Sullivan's empire, I sat across from FBI Special Agent Thomas Reeves in a sterile conference room downtown. The recording equipment between us hummed softly, documenting every word of my testimony. Walk me through the night of the warehouse rescue one more time, Miss Turner. I'd told this story 5 times already to various federal investigators. Each retelling made it feel less real, like I was describing events that happened to someone else. Sarah Romero was chained to a radiator on the 3rd floor. She'd been moved 4 times in 3 months. Patrick O'Sullivan's organization held her to force her brother Vincent to provide intelligence on Anthony Caruso's operations. Agent Reeves nodded, making notes. And you participated in the armed extraction of Miss Romero. I documented the rescue. My role was journalist, not combatant. I kept my voice steady, repeating the distinction that Anthony's lawyer had drilled into me. Everything I did was in pursuit of evidence for a story exposing organized crime. A story that resulted in the arrest of 17 individuals and the dismantling of a criminal organization that had operated in Chicago for 3 generations. He leaned back. That's quite an accomplishment for someone who was supposedly just chasing a construction fraud story. I followed the evidence wherever it led. That's what journalists do. The interview lasted another hour before Agent Reeves finally turned off the recording equipment. The U.S. Attorney is prepared to offer you immunity for any peripheral involvement in the operation in exchange for your continued cooperation as a witness in the prosecution of O'Sullivan and his associates. Relief flooded through me. I accept. Good. Because your testimony is crucial. The financial records you compiled, the surveillance footage, Sarah Romero's kidnapping documentation, all of it strengthens our case considerably. He stood, extending his hand. You did the right thing, Miss Turner. Sometimes the line between journalist and participant gets blurred, but what matters is the truth came out. After leaving the federal building, I met Hannah at a coffee shop in Lincoln Park. She was already there, laptop open, typing furiously. When she saw me, she closed the computer and stood to hug me tight. How'd it go with the FBI? Immunity deal in exchange for testimony. It's official. I sank into the chair across from her. How are your parents handling you being back in Chicago? They're not thrilled, but they understand this is the story of our careers. Hannah studied my face. You look different. Not just tired. Different. I am different. I wrapped my hands around the coffee cup she'd ordered for me. I participated in things I never imagined doing. Planned operations, planted surveillance devices, helped coordinate a rescue that involved armed combat. That's not journalism, Hannah. That's something else entirely. It's investigative work taken to its logical conclusion. She leaned forward. You exposed corruption that ran so deep it required extraordinary measures. The Tribune wants you back, by the way. James called me yesterday. Full reinstatement, your choice of assignments, and they're nominating your O'Sullivan exposé for a Pulitzer. The news should have thrilled me. Instead, I felt oddly detached. What if I don't want to go back? Hannah's eyebrows shot up. What are you talking about? This is everything we've worked for. Is it? Or is it what we thought we wanted before we understood what real investigative journalism costs? I met her eyes. I'm not the same person who left that newsroom 6 weeks ago. I can't pretend I am. Then who are you now? The question hung between us. Who was I? Not the idealistic journalist who believed exposing truth was enough. Not the victim who needed protection. Something in between. Something new that I didn't have words for yet. I'm someone who understands that sometimes you have to get your hands dirty to clean up the mess. I said finally. Someone who learned that the world isn't as simple as good sources and published articles. And Anthony Caruso? Hannah asked carefully. Where does he fit into this new version of you? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from the mansion. Lily wants to know if you're coming home for dinner. She made you a welcome home card. Home. When had I started thinking of the Lake Forest mansion as home? He's part of it, I admitted. I know what he is, what his businesses involve, but I also know he kept me alive when dangerous people wanted me dead. He gave me resources to expose corruption that law enforcement couldn't or wouldn't touch. And he's a father who loves his daughter more than anything in this world. Hannah absorbed this, then nodded slowly. You're in love with him. I don't know. Maybe. Is that insane? Probably. She smiled slightly. But we've never been particularly sane, have we? We became journalists to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. If Anthony Caruso comforts you and helps you afflict people like Patrick O'Sullivan, who am I to judge? 3 days later, I stood in the Tribune's newsroom for the first time since my suspension. Editor James Sullivan welcomed me back personally, his handshake firm and genuine. The O'Sullivan series has already been syndicated to 20 national papers, he said, leading me to his office. You've done exceptional work, Jessica. Work that matters. Thank you. I sat in the chair across from his desk. But I'm not coming back full-time. His expression shifted to surprise. What? Why not? Because I've found a different way to do the work that matters. I pulled out a folder I'd prepared. I want to continue investigating corruption in Chicago, but as an independent journalist with my own resources. I'll still publish through the Tribune when appropriate. But I need autonomy to pursue stories without corporate restrictions. James studied me carefully. This is about Caruso, isn't it? You're going to work with his resources. I'm going to use resources that allow me to investigate targets that are too dangerous or politically connected for traditional journalism to touch. I met his gaze directly. The O'Sullivan organization existed for decades, because no one had the means to expose them properly. I do now. I'm not wasting that opportunity. After a long moment, James nodded. All right. Independent contractor status. You publish exclusively through us. We provide editorial support and legal backing, but you maintain control over your investigations. Deal? Deal. That evening, I returned to the mansion to find Lily waiting by the door, bouncing with excitement. Jessica, you're home. I made you something. She thrust a crayon drawing into my hands. It showed 3 stick figures, one tall with dark hair, one small with curly hair, and one medium-sized with brown hair, all holding hands in front of a house. Above them, she'd written in careful letters, "My family." Something in my chest cracked open. "Lily, this is beautiful. That's you." She pointed to the medium figure. "And Papa. And me. We're a family now, right?" I looked up to find Anthony standing in the doorway, his expression unreadable but his eyes intense. The question Lily asked was really his question, the one he'd been too careful to voice directly. "Yeah, kiddo," I heard myself say. "I think we are." 6 months after a rainy October night when I answered an anonymous text message, I stood in the mansion's garden watching Lily practice the self-defense moves I'd been teaching her. She'd insisted on learning after the attack, wanting to feel less helpless. I understood that need completely. "Kick higher. Use your whole body, not just your leg." She adjusted, her small foot connecting solidly with the practice pad I held. "Like that?" "Perfect." Again. Anthony appeared at the edge of the garden, still wearing his suit from whatever business had occupied his afternoon. He watched us train for several minutes before approaching. "She's getting good. She's a fast learner." I lowered the pad as Lily took a water break. "How was your meeting?" "Productive. Vincent's officially leaving the organization to focus on Sarah's recovery. She's making progress in therapy, but it's slow." He moved closer, his hand finding the small of my back in a gesture that had become familiar. I'm proud of him for choosing family over business. We'd found our rhythm over these months. Anthony ran his legitimate businesses while carefully distancing himself from the gray areas that had defined his family's operations. I investigated corruption, published exposés that were already making waves in city politics. Together we created something that shouldn't work, but somehow did. "I got a call from the Pulitzer Committee today," I mentioned. "The O'Sullivan series is a finalist." "That's incredible." He pulled me closer. "Though I'm not surprised. You changed everything with that story. We changed everything. You, me, Vincent, Hannah. Even Lily in her way." I watched his daughter practice kicks in the fading sunlight. 6 months ago, I was a journalist chasing ghosts. Now I'm part of something I never imagined. Regrets? I considered the question honestly. The violence I'd witnessed, the lines I'd crossed, the comfortable certainties I'd abandoned. No. I became something more than I was. Someone who protects the people she loves, no matter what that requires. Anthony turned me to face him fully, his amber eyes searching mine. "I love you, Jessica Turner. I know the timing's complicated and the circumstances are insane, but I've loved you since you threw yourself between my daughter and a hail of bullets." My heart hammered. "I love you too, even though you're probably the most complicated man I've ever met." He kissed me then, gentle and thorough, a promise of all the complicated tomorrows we'd navigate together. When we broke apart, Lily was watching us with undisguised delight. "Does this mean Jessica's staying forever now?" Anthony and I exchanged glances. Then I knelt to Lily's level. "Yeah, kiddo, I'm staying. Is that okay with you?" She threw her arms around my neck. "It's perfect." And standing there in the garden of a mansion I now called home, teaching a 7-year-old to defend herself while the man I loved watched over us both, I realized she was right. It was perfect, not in the way I'd imagined my life would unfold, but in the way that mattered most. I'd set out to expose corruption and found a family instead. I'd lost my comfortable certainties and gained something infinitely more valuable, the knowledge that sometimes the truth requires you to step off the sidelines and into the fight. That journalism isn't always about maintaining distance, but about understanding when proximity to danger is the price of real change. Vincent left organized crime to save his sister. I entered it to save myself. In the end, we both found redemption in the most unexpected places, and that was worth every line I'd crossed to get here.